And welcome to episode 24 of Orab Sports Complex. Talk Sports to Me. I'm your host, the Sports Guru. Tonight's listener special is about the one and only GOAT, the greatest of all time, your airness, six-time NBA champion, and the list of accolades goes on and on, the one and only Mike Jordan. Thank you for joining tonight. Tonight at 9 o'clock, ESPN will air their Michael Jordan docuseries titled The Last Dance. If you are a basketball fan or a Jordan fan, don't miss it. I'm sure I will be tuning in. I cannot wait. But tonight on Talk Sports to Me Live, I will start the series that ESPN will do tonight with a great conversation about Mike, also known as MJ, and what he meant to me and the world of basketball during my era and still means to the youth of basketball today. This episode 24 is brought to you by Anchor.fm and Orab Sports Complex. All podcasts can be heard in syndication at the following: Anchor.fm, Spotify, Breaker Radio, Castbox, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcast. Again, tune in tonight to ESPN at 9 o'clock for the series, Michael Jordan series titled The Last Dance. It will be a treat, I'm sure, for everyone who is a Michael Jordan or basketball fan. Something different I'm going to start doing. I try to mix things up here and keep it interesting. Something that I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start doing a listener special every Sunday. And each Sunday, the podcast topic will be based on what it is that you as the listener want to hear, and whatever feedback I get back in terms of what seems to be the popular topic of discussion for that week, that's what we will discuss on Sundays. So without further ado, let's kick off the show. February 17th, 1963, in New York City, a star was born, named Michael Jeffrey Jordan. To many, he is regarded as the greatest basketball player of all time. To many, he's regarded as the greatest athlete of all time. It depends on who you're talking to. But one thing for sure, and two things is for certain: there has never been a person who has been more marketable in the world of sports than Michael Jordan. The second ranking most marketable person in the world of sports is probably that of none other than Tiger Woods. When I think of marketability and I think of people who have been able to make it as athletes in terms of their marketing genius and the people that they surround themselves and their swagger and their ability to make their product known and make their product something that people want, are Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan. Those are the two names that come off right off top to me. Knowing that, tonight we're going to get into how Michael Jordan not revolutionized the game of basketball, because I don't think that he was a revolutionary. I think he evolutionized the game of basketball in terms of how to make money outside of what you do on the basketball court. Michael Jordan was making a lot of money outside of the game of basketball long before he ever won his first championship. People who follow basketball know that he had 2 three-peats, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, didn't win, 96, 97, 98, won again. Six attempts at a championship, 6 rings. He is the only person in NBA history, to my recollection, and if I'm wrong, correct me, because that's what this show is. This being live on Facebook is an opportunity for you guys to be able to reach out to me, touch me, comment, post, call in, 937-515-8763. I'll post the number just so you can call in if you so desire. We do have a couple of guests that are calling in tonight. They are quality guests, people who are basketball, people who have been around the game for a long time, that are going to give some input. When you think basketball heads, these are some of the people that you think of locally in terms of basketball. Michael Jeffrey Jordan, born to the mother Dolores and father James Jordan Sr., was, in my opinion, God's choice to evolutionize the NBA. He changed the dynamic of the excitement and the marketing and the level of play. And with that, he brought a clutch gene that had never been seen before in the NBA in terms of not only being willing to take the big shot, but suffering and dealing with the consequences of not making the big shot. You've seen the quote that says, "I've failed over 1,000 times, and that's why I succeed." And that was one of Michael Jordan's most prolific quotes. MJ never played just to be playing. He was playing to make examples of the competition. And that's exactly what he done. He made examples of the competition. Nobody else in the NBA during his tenure was able to produce and able to manifest a run like Michael Jordan was able to do, based on he shut other people in the NBA down. He stopped people from getting rings. I can give you a list of 5 of the 50 greatest players in the world that are my top 5 outside of Michael Jordan during his prime era that never won a championship. Karl Malone, John Stockton, Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, and Reggie Miller. Those 5 guys are probably 5 of the most prolific players in NBA history in terms of statistics, in terms of winning percentage outside of when it didn't involve Michael Jordan, and outside of the ability to win the needed to win the big games. He kept Patrick Ewing from East. Charles Barkley couldn't win the East, so he went out West. And then when he went out West, he ran into the Bulls in a final. So these are all things that, people don't look at when looking at Michael Jordan and his greatness. His greatness was one in which he never backed down from a challenge. He always accepted every challenge that was put in front of him. And I think that because he was a champion in a sense from, the Pistons were a roadblock for him for a long time, from 1987 to like 1990. The Pistons were the issue in the East, and they were brash and they were tough and they were bullies and they were down for the cause. But what they never did was allow Michael Jordan to take the throne easily. He had to actually put in extra work and do extra things to manifest his greatness. And so tonight, our first guest that we're going to talk to is going to talk about how Michael Jordan was able to make that push. And he's a person that was playing during the time that Michael Jordan was playing, and had the opportunity to play not in necessarily against Mike, but in some of the same circles that Michael Jordan played in, with people who were also great players. First guest, Brian Miller. Brian Miller, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, JT. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for calling in, man. I know I reached out to you on late notice, but I was trying to think of someone that would be able to really give the lowdown dirty on Michael Jordan's evolution to basketball. And I say evolution because I don't think, and I think you'll agree with this, he didn't revolutionize the game. He just evolutionized marketing and making himself marketable and being, putting a tag on himself, which others put on him as the greatest player in the game. But let's talk a bit about, the early years of Michael Jordan, coming out of the draft. You were in high school at the time. How much of a buzz was there around Michael Jordan at that time?
No, it wasn't much of a buzz because everybody was looking up at other players like, Julius Erving, and you're looking at everybody else, Patrick Ewing, the glove. You was looking at different all-stars, and you was looking up to them before Jordan even became a household name.
And so, I know you own a lot of pair of them, and the people that we associate ourselves with in our circles, a common topic that we talk about when we're together are shoes. You have a lot of pairs of Jordans. My cousin Jaron is a fanatic about Jordans. What is it about the shoe? Is it more the shoe or is it more the name? And this is all based on your opinion, that has made Michael Jordan a household name and is marketable?
Well, I think it is the shoe. I mean, he pretty much started the three-quarter shoe. Most of them, you look at in the history, the Julius Ervings were high top. Mostly back then, in my era, you had high tops. You had the Nike Force, Air Force Ones, and most of them was high above the ankle. But I think Michael, look at most of his shoes, they're three-quarter, and they're a little lighter than what we had. And I think, as the time went on, it was mostly about the shoe, about his name.
Mm-hmm.
It was more about the flair and that it was Michael Jordan shoes. And plus that, he had his name and he got the shoe deal and he got most of Nike wrapped up.
Right. So, the Michael Jordan as we know it, as we knew it growing up, and you being in that era, I mean, directly in that era, how do you think his swagger and persona propelled him to, because long before he won his first championship, and we spoke about this briefly a little bit earlier, but long before he won his first championship, he had a swagger, he had a moxie, he had something about him that was just different. You being part of that era, what was that, in your opinion, that separated him from everyone else?
Well, he had the athleticism, and plus the game started evolving to more of the guards. Back then, it was more of the big man coming down, setting it up, giving it to him in the post, letting them dominate in the post, and then if they didn't have nothing, they kick it back out. But they changed the era with them by, having the guards come out and just, if you think back, Andrew Toney and all of these other ones that could play, it was all about the big man in their area. In this area, if we just played just up and down style, I think it would have been a lot different with those players too back then. But Mike changed the game because he was aggressive, he was dominate, and he also thought that, I want to be the best.
Yeah, that's something that I said in the introduction of the show. He is an ultra competitive person. Like, he is probably, and this is just based on the stories and some of the other documentaries that have been made on him and that type of thing. Like, whatever he's doing, they say they said he was a gambler, and they said that he was the most competitive at that. And they said, we all know he's got a passion and a lust for golf. And they say he likes to, he's ultra competitive with that. And we all know how he was as a basketball player. Like, a conversation that you and for those of you that don't know, Brian, his son is Darius Miller, plays for the New Orleans Pelicans and won a national championship in 2012 at the University of Kentucky and a state championship at Mason County in 2008 and a gold medal with the USA national 18 and under, 19 and under team. So Darius is one of the most winning athletes in the world in terms of at every stop he's won. He went to Germany and won championships. And so at every stop he's won. And those of us who know him and know you know that he gets that competitive drive from you. You still, in your mind, and don't, get upset with me here, but in your mind, you still feel like you can beat him one-on-one. And that's what has propelled him and drove him to be a competitor. And if you watch Darius play, you see a side of him that is laid back and that is reserved, and he's very unselfish, and he's an underrated passer, and he plays really good defense, and he'll get a steal and throw it to the guy leaking out before he'll go down and dunk on somebody. But when the game's on the line in the last 2 minutes of the game, and I've seen it time and time again. I saw it in the SEC tournament. I saw it in high school against Covington Holmes. I saw it in Germany. He has a competitive fire that burns like none other. But one of the things that you and him always have an argument about, and I've been part of this argument several times, is Jordan and LeBron, and who's the greatest between the two. And it's an era thing. And I want you to give me your input on why you feel like Jordan is the greatest, and then I want you to give me the rebuttal on why Darius thinks that LeBron is the greatest.
Well, first off, I'm gonna say it's an insult to be jumping over Kobe. I don't even think. I mean, LeBron is okay, but we jumping over some a multi-talented, a lot of NBA players that, like I said, the style of the game has changed. If we had other players that, came up through the ranks, Sean Kemp and a bunch of other ones, they could have had that same title. But like I said, Jordan changed the game. Jordan he's in a class by himself. And we jumped in LeBron over a bunch of a lot of talented players that could have, changed the game too with the style, up and down style that they have. Now, I'm not saying LeBron is not good, but I'm just saying the thing is now with the social media and everything else that you could just Google his name, just think what that would have done for players like me back in the day. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
That opportunity, and a lot of players, even high school kids now, you hear about them on the internet before you hear about them going and do anything.
Right. Yeah. The kid, I don't know. I can't remember his name. I saw something about it on the internet the other day. Julian something. He was like an internet sensation coming up. Really good ball handler, really good player, never grew. Now he is foregoing his college career because he got no Power 5 conference scholarship offers and going to try to play in overseas somewhere. And again, like you say, he never made it. He never made it as a prolific or all-state high school player, but he was an internet sensation when he was 9 or 10 years old. And it has gotten it's gotten him a name, but it's a name that we'll probably never hear again after this basketball season.
But to answer your question, you are correct. We argue about Jordan and LeBron because it's different eras. I mean, this younger era would say LeBron because that's all they seen. And they won't say Jordan because Jordan was slowed down, and they think because of the cast of players that was around them or in that era wasn't that good. But I guarantee you, if you took those players at their prime and play against these here in their prime, they would kill this one. And then they take away all of these baby calls where you can't even breathe on somebody or reach in, then it would be totally different. Half of these players now, y'all gonna get mad, are soft. Because if you barely touch them, they cry. Back then, we was told to play through a little, a reach or a touch foul or a bump. But now you go back and you watch the game. Now, if you bump somebody going to the hole, what do? They look at the ref. They sit back and argue or looking at the ref to make a call instead of getting back on defense. What would they do against Gary Payton?
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to. And again, the game has gotten so sensationalized in terms of players' ability to play through adversity. And the players who are able to do that, I think that's what made Kobe so good for so long, because he was a crossover to the other generation, the old school generation. He was playing through contact. I mean, the guy tore his Achilles and shot 2 free throws and walked off the court. LeBron got a cramp and they carried him off the court. It's 2 totally different eras, 2 totally different eras. I remember growing up watching you play at Rotary Park and watching you play at the old Maysville High School gym. Excuse me. And you were the closest thing to Michael Jordan that I had ever seen at that time. I mean, you could fly, you could shoot. You were a good defensive player. You were a really good player. And I just remember, like, growing up, watching you play, I was like, this is the closest thing to Michael Jordan that I ever saw. Last question. Did you emulate your game at all after Jordan, or was that how closely related your game was to MJ's game at that time?
No, I Dr. J. I was trying to dunk on everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I evolved from, okay, he can dunk, and they always said he couldn't shoot. So I mixed it up with the mid game, and same way with Darius. I wanted him to have a complete game. It wasn't like, if somebody said, oh, he can't shoot a three, wrong. Oh, he can't get to the mid-range, wrong. Oh, he can't dunk on you, and that's what I evolved from. Like I said back then, you picked and choose who you were going to look at and who you was going to watch and who you mimic your game after. But I try to be like Dr. J, take off from the free throw line and dunk on you. Mm-hmm. Me that one step, I would go vertical. But it was just that hunger. Just like you said, Gary still can't beat me.
So if he was on the show, I'm sure that he would disagree a little bit. Folks, if you don't know, if your kid needs if you're in the Lexington area, they've recently moved, but if your kid needs any personal training or one-on-one training, please reach out to Brian Miller. He's one of the best. He trains Chris Lofton when he's at home. He's trained the likes of Troy Gibbs, who had a stint in Mexico. He's trained his son, of course, who was SEC Sixth Man of the Year and SEC Tournament MVP, national champion, EuroLeague champion, high school state champion. So he's trained a lot of people who are really good players. And so if you are interested in your kid getting training, reach out to Brian Miller. I'm sure there's avenues to find him. Otherwise, if you can't find him, go check in at the KBC, ask Marcellus or Dre or George Baker or Julius or Tom or Amber, and they'll be able to tell you where Brian Miller's at. Okay, Brian, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for having me. You have a blessed day.
Yes, sir. So that was Brian Miller. Brian Miller is for those of you who don't know him, in the 80s and 90s, he was as good as basketball player as there was that wasn't playing in the NBA, probably in the world. He was a really good player, and he's been a really good coach over the last few years. Michael Jordan was like one of the guys that really made me as a kid want to there were players who made me want to elevate my game, and then there were players who just made me want to play. And Michael Jordan was one of the players that made me just want to play. He just made me want to be better at whatever it was that I was doing. And everyone tried to emulate their game after him, but everyone didn't have the athleticism that it took. But he is part of the reason why every basketball player that grew up playing in the 80s and 90s played the game. Our next guest is with us, Shawn Myrick. What's up, brother?
What's happening?
Shawn Myrick, former UC Bearcat, played on the UC teams that were really good, ranked in the top 5 in the country in the late 90s. Played with Kenyon Martin, Melvin Levitt. A lot of guys that are really Donald Little, a lot of guys that are well known in UC country. Great high school player at Mason County, had a great JUCO career. And so I just want to tap in with you a little bit, Shawn, about what Michael Jordan meant to you as a young player in the game of basketball.
Well, first of all, his toughness. The reason why I like watching him is toughness. He made me want to go out there. I knew I could stop anybody. I think people don't realize he was a better defensive player than probably a lot of these players are to this day. That's out there in the NBA. His defense was unreal, and I didn't really care too much about our offense, because your defense would always bring your offense. So to me, it was his defense that I was impressed with.
When you as a young kid, and back then there was really not AAU, it was just select travel ball, all-star teams, and they'd put players on teams from different counties and that type of thing. Just talk about, a little bit about how that opportunity and that experience helped get you to where you wanted to be at the type of level that Michael Jordan was at during that time.
Well, I really didn't make a lot of teams. That's what a lot of people don't understand. I didn't make a lot of teams. I mean, Pat Moore took me under his wing when I was real young. And he made me sit on the bench for years, watching Brian Miller, watching Jeff Chambers, watching Steve Chambers. All of them played. Alvinson. So I watched them. I didn't never get to play, so I studied their game. And I just studied it, and I just seen how they was, and that's how I learned the game of basketball. I didn't learn the game by playing, because everybody would never let me play because I was too short, or, I had my mouth always got me in trouble a lot. So that was one of the things. But I studied people. I watched them, and I sat there on the bench. I went to tournaments in Portsmouth, Chillicothe, all these other tournaments where a lot of big name players was there. And Brian Miller would tell you, and I've just heard him talk. It's like, I sat on the bench for years. I didn't get to play until my senior year in high school. That's how good they was. But that was me. I just studied the game. And when Mike did, he sat back and watched you. People can study Michael Jordan all they want, but there's only one person who ever beat Michael Jordan. That was Kobe.
Yeah, so, I agree wholeheartedly with that. Kobe, the difference between Kobe and everybody else that wanted to be like Mike, his build was almost identical to Michael Jordan's build. I mean, he had the size, he had the athleticism, and he had the ability to model his game after Mike's game. And I think a lot of people don't, and Brian Miller said it when I was just talking to him. In my top five, there's Michael Jordan, and then there's Kobe. LeBron is a distant third from those two guys. And I love LeBron. I think he's a really good player. But I don't think that him in comparison, and this goes back to what you said, him in comparison in terms of toughness does not correlate to go in with those two guys. And I don't care about what scoring list he's passed them on. I don't care about what assist list he's passed them on. I'm talking about the fact that those two individuals were tough. And that's something that you were when you played. And I remember when I was coming up at Rotary Park, there were players that were more talented than me at Rotary Park. And I specifically remember this is when Timmy, whoever used to turn the lights on. Remember, we used to play late at night and somebody would turn the lights on at Rotary Park. Yeah. And I remember we were down there playing, and there were players in my age group that were more talented than me, with a year or two older than me, or in my age group that were more talented. And you said, Thompson's going to go farther than y'all because y'all don't want to listen and y'all ain't tough enough. No. And I remember that resonated that night with me, like, okay, so toughness does matter. Falling down and getting back up, knocking a man on his butt and not letting him get a layup, locking your man down. Those were all things that I learned from watching you play. Those are all things that got you a scholarship to UC. Talk about that experience with Coach Huggins and talk about what it is that he really saw in you and liked that made him extend an offer for you to be there.
Well, Cincinnati was actually my second choice. I was actually signing with USC with Henry Bibby. Mm-hmm. That was my first choice. Huggins flew to North Idaho, where I was actually the number one. I was All-American. I was first team All-American JUCO with Steve Francis, Shawn Myrick. You name it, I was in the top five.
And Shawn Myrick was at Vincennes, right?
Yes, he was at Vincennes.
Okay, yep. Go ahead.
You were saying we had a lot of top players was there, but I was first team All-American with him. And Huggins flew to North Idaho, where I was at. And he came out there to see me play open gym one day. And I had a bad day that day. But one thing how he signed me was I sprung my ankle like a few plays into the game through the game, and I got back up. I went into the training room and told him to take my ankle. And that's when he actually sitting there and told me, he's like, that's the only reason why I'm signing you, because I seen what you sprain your ankle and get back out there, and that's toughness. And then he went on to explain to me, he's like, we just basically signed a contract with Jordan. So that sold me right there. I mean, being one of the first teams in college basketball to play with Team Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, at the time, so I remember, when you signed at UC, actually, when you were at UC, a lot of people don't know this. When you were at UC and I was playing at Claremont, we crossed paths every day because we practiced after y'all at the Shoemaker Center. And so I would see y'all down there a lot. But we got y'all's Jordan gear, what y'all didn't use. It was all too big because everybody on the team was bigger than us. But we got, there was no mediums and larges left. The guys on the team got those. They sent us all the 2Xs, and we wasn't as big as the guys that were down at Maine. But that UC contract with Jordan, at the time, I think there was only UC, maybe North Carolina, and maybe Georgetown might have been the only three.
Georgetown, it was NC State.
NC State. Okay, yeah. So there was only 3 in the country that were signed with Jordan at the time. That was huge. What was that experience like in terms of having that type of sponsorship deal from the greatest player to ever touch the hardwood?
Well, just like Jordan, a lot of people don't realize that every game Jordan wears a new pair of tennis shoes.
Mm-hmm.
He wears a new pair of Jordans every game. So what he did for all his Team Jordan people was every game we had to wear a new pair of shoes.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through probably around about, each player on the team had probably about 32 pairs of Jordans each year.
Yeah.
But I gave mine to my brothers and all of them. At halftime, I sold them, which I shouldn't be saying, but
yeah, we played there when I was in high school at the Shoemaker Center. We played there for 2 years, and the second year UC had the endorsement deal, and there was so my high school coach Tom Jutzy, Huggins was at Walsh when Jutzy was in high school, and so Huggins recruited Jutzy to come to Walsh, so he knew him, and so when we went down there, he was like, "Hey, coach, man, can you get us a better locker room, man? They got us in a bathroom." And he was like, "Yeah, hold on for a second." He went to the locker room and was like, "Hey, you guys get out of here." He's like, "One of these high school teams is going to use this locker room." And everybody was like, "Oh, man, all of our shoes is in here, man." You know what I mean? So Huggins waved over 2 security guards that were that were working security down on the floor and was like, "Hey, you guys come here." And they went over there and he said something to him. And what I'm guessing he said to him was like, "Keep these damn kids, make sure these damn kids ain't stealing nothing." You know what I mean? But there were shoes up on top of all the lockers, and you guys had the drawers in the bottom of your locker. There were shoes there. There were shoes up top. There was just Jordans everywhere. And I bet there was 300 pair of Jordans in that locker room. And there's only 15 players on the team or whatever. And I just specifically remember somebody got out a camera. I mean, there was no cell phones back then, but my uncle or somebody got a picture, was wanting to take a picture. And they were like, "If you guys want to take a picture, you have to go in there. And so you can't be taking pictures of the guy's stuff, in the locker room." So we took a picture, and my uncle has it hanging up in his trophy room. Him and I took a picture in the damn shower with the red marble Cincinnati in the back. We took a picture in the shower. Last question, in terms of sponsorship deals and endorsement deals and that type of thing, I know you said Jordan was the reason that you went ahead and signed, but at UC, but did that type of stuff have a big impact on kids at that time? Was that really your main factor? Was that your thing, Jordan brand?
Well, yeah, that's a huge factor. I mean, who is going to wear Michael Jordan? I mean,
right.
You see a lot of people wearing just Nikes. I mean, Jordan was expensive.
Right, yeah.
A lot of people go to UC, we don't come from people that have a lot of money, parents that have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So Hugs gets the people that he knows is struggling, that's going to fight for whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. I mean, we got the Jordan shoes. I mean, we thought with the sweatsuits, we thought we was all of that when we got off the airplane when we traveled.
Right.
And that's Jordan was everything to us.
Hey man, before I let you go, I've been running into your boy a lot, Mike McGee. Man, he told me to tell you what's up.
Oh, tell him I said what up when you see him.
I run in. He lives somewhere around me in the neighborhood, man. Because I run into him at the gas station and Kroger's.
That's my man.
He was like, "Man, you talked to Shawn?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've talked. We had talked last week or whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, I talked to him the other day." And then he actually ended up. He was telling me the other day he was talking to Hugs on the phone when I pulled up, and he was like, "All right, Bob," and he's like, "I just got off the phone with Bob. He's trying to get them to play this NCAA tournament before at the beginning of next season." And so I was like, "Man, that sounds like a good idea." And then I talked to TC, and TC was like, "What about the seniors, man? They're going to be in the NBA." And I was like, "Oh yeah, good point."
Yeah.
So anyway, man, thanks for joining us. There's a couple of other topics that I'm going to be calling you on, so you're going to be a regular on the show as we move forward. But thanks for tapping in about the Jordan brand, the UC experience, and what Jordan meant to you growing up, coming up in the game.
Yeah, man, keep doing your thing, man. This is a good show, and people need to start tuning in for this because it's a good show that you got going on, man. Helping local people out and putting people's name out there and this and that. Tell them what they running camps and this and that. So keep on doing it, man. I got your back 100%.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
No problem, bro.
See. So that was Shawn Myrick, UC player from 98 to 2000, I believe it was. He spent 2 years in Northern Idaho, was a junior college All-American first team. Heard he said he got recruited by Henry Bibby at USC. That was his first choice to play for Henry Bibby at USC. Said Huggins came and talked to him in the locker room and said, "Hey, we got a Jordan deal," and the next thing you know, the next is history. He spent the next 2 years at UC. So another great conversation with another guy that's in it, and I try to keep people on the show who are in it and who are involved. Next guest, Adam Reed, head coach, Bracken County High School, 10th Region Hall of Famer, played high school basketball at Bracken County, played college basketball at Faulkner State Junior College in Alabama, moved on college starting at point guard and leading them to a Final Four appearance, played for Coach Randy McCoy, and you will not meet a person in basketball that is more passionate about the game than Adam Reed. Adam, what's up, buddy?
Hey, man. What's up, Coach? How you doing?
I'm good. So I just want to get started. You and I, and anybody who knows us knows the story. You and I had classic battles from 3rd and 4th grade all the way through high school. And the one thing that you and I always had in common, although wearing different jerseys, we were both the ultimate competitors. And
Absolutely.
Tonight our topic is we're doing a prelude of the Michael Jordan series for ESPN, and that's what I want to talk about is Michael Jordan and how competitive he was, and touch on some topics and just get some insight. How important was Michael Jordan to the evolution of your game as a basketball player from a youth into high school?
Well, JT, I listened to the show, and first, the cool thing about it is all three of the guys that's been on the show, you, B, and Shawn, have all played major roles in my competitive drive as well. But Michael was but Michael took the icing. I mean, he was the guy who, you watched Come Fly With Me, and it didn't matter if it was 1 o'clock in the morning. You went outside, and I had to lower the rim, but I went outside and lowered the rim and got my dunks in. Got my dunk set in. He was the guy who, no matter what time it was, you knew when fourth quarter came, you had to get home because you knew he was going to hit a shot, or he was going to make a defensive stop, or he was going to penetrate and make the right kick to John Paxson or Craig Hodges. I mean, you know, Michael was everything to me. I mean, it was the only time I was allowed to stay up late is when they was on WGN. He was, you know, I got my push-ups and my sit-ups on timeout commercials. He was everything to me growing up.
You were very distinct memory for me. I was talking to my Uncle Dean about it not long ago. We played Bracken County freshman year maybe, and you wore number 23. And, of course, a lot of people wore number 23, but you wore number 23 until you went to Faulkner State and they gave you that football number.
But, well, hey, I couldn't find 23, so I got that 53.
Yes.
I had to just reverse it. You feel me?
So you were 23, and I distinctly remember that was the first time I had ever saw somebody shoot a 360 layup in a game. You shot a 360 layup in a high school game, and I was just like, damn. This dude just shot a 360. I mean, it caught me off guard because I had never seen it. And at that time, I put 2 and 2 together, and I was like, okay, he wears number 23. He just shot a 360 layup. This dude is a basketball junkie, and he loves Michael Jordan.
I got a bowl cut with a Nike swoosh in my head. I mean, it was the whole nine, man. Anything Jordan had. I mean, I remember Christmas time, birthdays. It didn't matter when it was. The only thing they ever had to get me was a Michael Jordan shirt or a Chicago Bulls starter jacket. You know, it didn't matter as long as I got something with Mike on it. It was they made my day. You know, he was just. I tried to explain it like when he retired the first time. It was like when Christian Laettner hit the shot against the Cats. Like it was just that empty feeling in your stomach. And, you know, I was emotional and I probably cried when he retired. I said, there's no way he's retiring. And then when I heard he's coming back, and I was like, I got to get home. You know, I got to go check Sports Center to make sure this is true.
Right.
Oh, he's coming back. You know what I mean? It was like Christmas. And I mean, it was just, he was just like, I can't explain it, man, how important Michael Jordan was to every young basketball player. I mean, because here's the deal. It's kind of like LeBron now. You either love Michael or you hate Michael, right? You either love Michael or you love Charles Barkley or you love Gary Payton or Sean Kemp. But all, like you said earlier, all those guys, they didn't get a ring when Mike was playing.
And
they didn't get a ring.
We're going to talk about that. I'm going to run down a list of accolades here for Michael. 6-time NBA champion, 6-time MVP finals, 6-time NBA finals MVP, 5-time most valuable player, 88, 91, 92, 96, 98, 14-time All-Star, 3-time NBA All-Star MVP, 10-time NBA first team, All-NBA second team once, NBA Defensive Player of the Year 1988, 9-time, and this is what Shawn was talking about, 9-time NBA All-Defensive first team, NBA Rookie of the Year 1985, NBA All-Rookie First Team 1985, 10-time scoring champion, three-time NBA steals leader in 88, 90, and 93, 2-time NBA slam dunk contest. And, folks, I just want to put out there, he didn't even play. He didn't even get in the dunk contest too many awful times, okay?
Right.
Number 23, retired by the Chicago Bulls, 3-time Associated Press Athlete of the Year, Sports Illustrated Sports Person of the Year, NBA 50th Anniversary All-Time Team, NBA Champion in 1982, Consensus National College Player of the Year in 1984, 2-time Consensus First Team All-American in 83 and 84, ACC Player of the Year in 84, 2-time First Team All-ACC in 83 and 84, ACC Rookie of the Year in 82, number 23 retired by North Carolina, and 2-time USA Basketball Male Athlete of the Year. Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016, not to mention gold medals in 84 and 92 in the Olympics, gold medal in 92 in Portland in the FIBA Championships, and gold medal in 83 in Caracas in the Pan American Games. Didn't lose in any international competition that he ever played in. No modern day era player can say that. So
no.
here's my grab. Michael Jordan, with that long list of accomplishments that I just read off, At one point in time, I was in the 8th grade, going into the 9th grade, and my high school coach at that time took guys to the University of Cincinnati for team camp for the week. And he didn't select me. And he selected 2 other guys in my grade. And I'm not going to say that I'm better, and I'm not going to say that I was better, that I was worse. It doesn't matter at this point. But what does matter is I didn't get to make the trip. I didn't get invited, okay? And I was ready to quit playing basketball at that time. The reason why I was ready to quit at that time is because something that you and I always talk about, the basketball gods, had not quite blessed me with all of it yet. You know, I had a lot of it, but I didn't have all of it. So I was still chubby. I didn't have any height. I was still chubby. My body was bad. I could shoot. I could handle. I could defend. But I just wasn't athletic enough to go play a varsity summer league like the 9th and 10th guys that were in my class that were going into 9th grade. I was ready to hang it up because I didn't think, my dad's 5'8". I didn't think I was going to grow anymore. I didn't think basketball was going to be my thing. I was a decent baseball player, pretty good baseball player. That's where I was going to direct my attention. Then came the movie, the show Come Fly With Me, the documentary Come Fly With Me, which was one of the original documentaries. There's a book and there was a VHS tape. I had the book and the VHS tape.
Me too, absolutely.
The day that my life changed because of all the relationships and basketball, every relationship that I have pretty much is primarily built around sports and primarily basketball, right?
Absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely.
So every relationship, I wonder how my life would have changed had that documentary not came out, because on that documentary, it showed that Michael Jordan got cut from his basketball team as a sophomore. Now, in the video, in the book, it tells the story, but in the video, it made it seem as if he didn't get to play in basketball at all that year. It just says he got cut. Now, he did play on the JV team. That is in the book, that he did play on it. But it says, it doesn't show in the movie that he played on the JV team. So I'm thinking, like, Michael Jordan got cut?
Yeah, no doubt.
This is the summer after the first three-peat. You know, they had just won 3 in a row. I'm like, the greatest basketball player in the world got cut? And I'm pissed off because I didn't get to go for the summer. I'm like, all right, get yourself together and let's ride, okay?
Let's go to the park.
So that point is when I was like, this will never happen again. You know, there will never be another situation like this. And this is when I started to propel myself to a different level.
This is when you tell yourself, if Mike can get cut and he can come back from the greatest ever, I can go to the park. I know I can do my push-ups. I know I can eat better. I know I can do everything that I can do to make sure that the next time Coach Junsey takes guys to this camp, I'm the first one he calls, right?
Right. I'm on the basketball team as a sophomore because Michael Jordan didn't. So I'm in two.
Absolutely.
And it didn't matter how much, you know, at that point it wasn't about how much I played as I got to make the varsity basketball because Michael Jordan didn't. And so growing up for you, at what point did you realize that, like, I'm not going to be the tallest, I'm not going to be the fastest, I'm not going to be the most talented on the floor, but I still have to give this everything that I got because my favorite player of all time, that's what he's done?
I'll tell you when it was for me, JT. I'll tell you. There was a kid that played. I ended up graduating with. His name was Jamie Clayton. You remember him?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Little point guard. Well, he was a little more mature than me and a little older. And I was at, I don't know, teen camp, no ball camp in Augusta when I was in the 4th or 5th grade. And he won every single award. He won free throw shooter, hot shot, 3-point shot. He won every award. And I had to sit there and listen to Coach Simpson at the time call this kid's name, and I told myself, man, I'm better than that kid. I'm so much, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, he was better than me. At the time, he was better, more mature, bigger, stronger, you know. But at that time, I told myself, man, I got with LJ Bowles, and I called LJ, and LJ took me underneath his wings. He's an Augusta legend. He took me under his wing, and he basically said, if you're going to work out with me, we're going to go every day. Mm-hmm. We ain't going to stop. Mm-hmm. So we went. So I started 5th, 6th grade running with LJ, and just every single day we worked on our game, and he got me better. You know, we talk a lot about being soft and being weak these days. There was none of that back then when we played. You shut your mouth, you pass the basketball to the older guys until they let you shoot. Until they said, hey, okay, man, you play some defense. You found some people. I told myself that basketball wasn't just going to be something temporary for me. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be immature for me. It's going to be my whole life's work. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where, you know, when I watch Come Fly With Me, you know, you're right. I wasn't going to be 6'5", but I sure as hell hung from the monkey bars like MJ did.
Trying to, yeah, for sure.
Come on.
For sure.
I mean,
for sure.
You know I hung from the monkey bars. Oh, he did that? Michael did that? I'm hanging.
When you something that we touched on just a second ago that we're going to get a little more in depth on, all the players that, like, there's probably 5 players in my top 25 all time. Because I'm going to be honest with you. I know guys are going to, the new generation, and I know basketball guys, you know, who know basketball and coach at the college level and all that, are going to be like, he's so stuck in the old time, like he won't give these new young guys any props and all that type of stuff. But it's not that. It's just who I am, what I believe in. I believe Larry Bird was better than Kevin Durant. That's just my belief, you know. So if I got to put somebody in the top 25, in my top 25, I'm putting Larry Bird in there. Now everybody's going to say this guy claims to know basketball, and he's saying that Larry Bird's better than Kevin Durant. But you have to understand that that's how he impacted me.
Right.
You know, that's how Larry Bird impacted me. You know what I mean? That's what he meant to me. You know, and so
it's okay to have favorites.
And that's not ever going to change. But the thing about it is, like, when you're putting up an argument about some of these new modern day players, they're just all taking turns winning championships. Well, when Jordan was in his prime, there were no other championships. There
was no times where Michael fell off 2 or 3 years and didn't win. Here's the bottom line is they started making the super teams to compete with Mike. Mm-hmm. They started making these super teams to compete with Mike. I mean, listen, I think Kevin Durant's the second greatest player to ever play the game. That's my opinion. I think he's above LeBron. I think he's way above Kobe. I think he's the most efficient scorer that we'll ever see.
Kevin Durant's not above Kobe Bryant.
Yes.
I mean, you cut that out. You cut Kevin that out,
Durant,
Adam.
Kevin Durant is the second best player of all time, and he's going to go down. And he depends what he does in Brooklyn, but right now Kevin Durant is on another level. If you talk about changing the game,
if you got to say if you got to say what somebody, it depends on what they do at their new stop. They're not the second greatest player of all time. And another thing that is a holdback for me, and I'm pissed off about it, is Kevin Durant got a 3 from the tee in Thompson Bowling Arena in his eyeballs with his hand up. And he never made a play to get Chris Lofton a shot in the league because he buried that shot. He hit that shot in his face. I can't.
I have feelings about that too.
Yeah, I can't.
Definitely been in that damn league.
Yeah, I mean, but you know, again, you've got Patrick Ewing, you've got
Barkley.
Charles Barkley
to go get out of the West.
You've got Karl Malone. You've got John Stockton.
Peyton Kemp, Shrimp. Look at that
Detlef Shrimp. Gary Payton.
Hersey Hawkins.
Yeah,
Sam Perkins. Come on, man. Yeah. Team was loaded.
Right. I mean, you couldn't win on Jordan's watch. And here's the deal. Everybody nowadays talks about all these, like somebody was saying that Kobe was better than Jordan because Jordan had better teams. And I looked up the rosters from the two teams, and I'm going to be honest with you, outside of Scottie Pippen and a few of the years Dennis Rodman, and then, you know, they had Ron Harper, you know, they had Kukoc, but I mean, Kobe's out there with Paul Paul Gasol and Andrew Bynum and Lamar Odom and Metta World Peace and Shaq. I mean, it's not. I mean, Kobe had.
It's not comparable. It's not comparable.
It's not.
We used to talk about this all the time. Michael won without a big.
Right.
Michael won without a big. I mean, it was like B was talking about earlier in the segment. B was saying that it kind of changed when Michael came in. They kind of put the ball in the guard's hands more. You know, Mark Jackson in the post, Michael in the post. You know what I'm saying? It started going towards, okay, we'll run this triangle offense. We're going to dump Bill Cartwright and Luke Longley and Will Perdue in the dunker corner, but we're going to run our offense through Michael in the post. You know what I'm saying? So when that started happening, it changed the way people had to play defense. It changed the game completely. And Michael was he was a terror in 15 foot and in. I mean, it was just stupid how good he was. But Michael, the one thing that we haven't said, and no one has said, he was a dog.
Yeah, he was a pit bull for sure.
He was a dog. He wanted the ball. He wanted to guard the best player. He was going to take a charge if he had to. He was going to come up with a block if he had to. That's dog mentality. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that I can win this championship. And that's the one thing that the guys now don't have to the guys back then. But you know, JT, I mean, Tonight, my boys are going to get to sit in the house with me and girls, my daughters and my sons. They're going to get sit in here with me tonight, and they're going to get to watch this docuseries, and they're going to see how competitive, how much fire Michael Jordan had in his belly in practice, in games, in playing cards on the plane, on arguing with who was better. I mean, they're going to get to see all of that. And to me, that's kind of to show them, you know, the total package is it can't just be competitive game time. You can't just be competitive game time. This competitive thing has to be when you wake up in the morning. Who's the first one to the car to get the front seat? Who's the first? Who's the first one? Who's the first one in Monopoly to grab that $500 bill? I mean, it's just a competitive nature that Michael brought to the table. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, even when he played baseball, JT, you're a baseball guy. Mm-hmm. I wasn't a baseball guy, but when he played baseball, I mean, he sold out the fields, he sold out the stadiums.
Well, his numbers as a baseball player, although weren't good enough for him to be a pro, were still better than everybody else that was not a pro. So like,
yeah, no doubt,
like you're either where Michael Jordan is at a little bit better and you're going to get a pro contract, or you are below. But his numbers were above average for a professional athlete that was in search of pursuing a dream, you know, and that was something that he did for his dad. Hey, we're running out of time here. Thanks for calling in, Coach. You are my guy. You know that. Tell the boys I love them. Keep up the good work. Folks, if you don't know, Adam has got two sons, Blake and Caden. One will be a freshman. One will be an eighth grader. Blake has just scored his 1,000th point this season. They are very, very, very skilled guards. And when I say skilled, I mean skilled in its purest form. And again, like Brian Miller, Adam is one of the best trainers around. So if you need some work with your kids, find him on Facebook. Adam Reed, find him on Facebook. He's the head coach at Bracken County. If you're in the 10th region, you're going to have your hands full over the next few years. He's doing a really good job at Bracken County, but he's created a monster because the 10th region is going to be a dynamic region in the state of Kentucky in the years to come. The fact that all the kids that played AAU for him are now at Augusta, St. Pat, Robertson County, Bracken County, and Mason County. So 5 of the schools in the region all have kids that came up under his tutelage in the Royal Legends and in the was it the Fire?
Yeah, Harrison County and Campbell County too. I mean, we got
Harrison County and Campbell County. So there's kids all over the 10th region that came up through
myself in the foot.
Shot yourself in the foot at the time. And at the time, you just wanted to make an impact, and it was through the AAU circuit. But little did you know that people were going to appreciate your work and give you an opportunity. You earned it. You deserve it. Keep up the good work, buddy.
Thank you, Coach.
See ya.
See you, bud.
So Adam Reed, head coach at Bracken County High School. For those of you that don't know, I just want to give you a little more information on Michael Jordan. He is the 4th richest African-American ever with a net worth of $2.1 billion. And that goes back to his endorsement possibilities and opportunities. So thanks for joining in tonight. It was another great episode. Thanks to Brian Miller, thanks to Shawn Myrick, and thanks to Adam Reed for joining us tonight. DocuSeries, ESPN, 9 o'clock, Michael Jordan, The Last Dance, 10-part series. Do not miss it. I'm out.